Mr. Mayor, we have all members in attendance this evening. You may begin this regular committee of whole meeting for the town of Saugeen Shores.
Okay, thank you, Linda. I'd like to call to order this committee of the whole meeting and welcome all members of the committee and welcome everyone who's watching us via the live stream this evening. We're glad that you're with us. The second item on the agenda is disclosure of pecuniary interest. Ask any member if you have one of those you'd like to declare at this time. Seeing none, of course, you can do that anytime if you need to. We have no additions, deletions, or amendments. We have no open forum or delegations this evening and also no public meetings. So we're right on down to reports of municipal officers and committees. And the first one is a general government report, which is a staff, and the first one of those is a staff report on the Municipal Innovation Council continuation and the CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The report in front of council tonight is with regards to the Municipal Innovation Council. This council was established in 2020 when 8 municipalities in the county of Bruce came together in order to find savings, efficiencies, and to deliver better services to our residents, all with a goal of building smarter, stronger, more resilient communities. After the first 18 months of getting to know the areas of focus and knowledge gathering, a number of priority areas were established for the Municipal Innovation Council. They were construction and infrastructure, municipal sustainability, information technology and digital enhancements, and livable communities. Once the council had those priorities in place, they started turning their attention to finding and securing funding and investment in order to advance a number of pilot projects. Attached to tonight's report is the Municipal Innovation Council Impact Report Stronger Together, which highlights the projects that were advanced, their successes, the funding that was able to be leveraged, and the economies of scale and tax dollars that were saved. There were a number of exciting projects that have advanced. The Smart Beach Project, which is a partnership between MyTax and the University of Windsor, the Mapping Our Future Project, which was funded by the National Disaster Mitigation Fund, and we had a number of service delivery reviews that were completed through the Municipal Modernization Fund. The MIC has been tremendously successful at securing external funding for almost every project that is undertaken. For every MIC dollar invested, there's been a doubling of that investment through those external funding sources, with the MIC obtaining close to $600,000 worth of funding in its first 18 months. That brings the total value delivered to our member municipalities to over $1.2 million. As council is aware, the pilot for the Municipal Innovation Council was to be for a period ending December 31st, 22 at the end of its first 3 years. The MIC is just starting to reach its stride after those first 18 months of planning and foundation setting and also dealing with the pandemic. In the last year, the MIC has been able to illustrate how that solid foundation is starting to really bear fruit in the caliber and quality of projects that are being advanced in 2022. Saugeen Shores contributes just over $30,000 annually and over those 3 years, the total investment has been around $93,000. As I mentioned, this investment has been leveraged to $1.2 million through grants and other members' funding and has accomplished a number of initiatives that Saugeen Shores would not have been able to accomplish independently. Every dollar that the town of Saugeen Shores has spent has leveraged $12 from the Municipal Innovation Council partnership. And it also will leverage future savings in the work that's been undertaken. The recommendation attached to tonight's report is for council to consider signing on to an updated memorandum of understanding to continue this innovative and one-of-a-kind partnership to 2025, and also to include the additional funding of $30,915 annually in the 2023 to 2023 budgets. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. There is a recommendation that council approves signing an updated memorandum of understanding to extend the Municipal Innovation Council until December 31st, 2025, a 3-year extension. And the council directs staff to incorporate the required $30,915 annual MIC funding into the draft 2023 budget to support the MIC into the new 3-year extension. Questions or comments from members of the committee? The Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. As our CAO has just said, despite the setbacks that the entire world has felt because of COVID, the MIC has come out strong. They've leveraged, they've gotten into several very, very important projects. I will be supporting this motion. I think there's a lot that they can do, and with a couple good years of non-COVID, we're going to see some excellent work coming out of the MIC.
Thank you, Councillor Grace, and then Councillor Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, CEO Van Mile, for your report. I've been involved in 2 committees in the last 2 years that have benefited directly from the work of the MIC, the Attainable Housing Task Force, and the Environmental Stewardship Committee. For the task force for housing, the MIC coordinator at the time arranged for University of Waterloo students to study our town's housing challenges, meet with town and county staff and council members, and to come up with recommendations. And these recommendations were very helpful. And we're seeing, I think, the fruit of that, of some of that work now. The Waste Management Service Review was a very important source of information for the Environmental Committee's waste-related recommendations. We know there are significant challenges related to waste management, especially there will be more in the next few years as the province works towards its 2025 recycling plan. Continued action through the MIC partnership gives us an important opportunity to achieve waste reduction and management goals. Another example of how the MIC is directly benefiting Saugeen Shores is the recently updated hazard mapping for the whole region, but particularly for the town of Southampton. Updating this type of mapping is very important, but it's also very expensive. So the MIC's project provides a direct cost saving for our municipality. So I too support our continued involvement and support for the MIC.
Thank you. Councillor Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I don't have a great deal more to add other than to echo the sentiments of the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Grace that as founding members of the MIC, Saugeen Shores plays a significant role in making sure that it remains successful as it has been, and as the largest on a per capita basis municipality in this partnership, we probably stand to gain more than most others. So it only stands to reason that we would continue this partnership and see this through. And for those reasons and others, I will support this also.
Okay, thank you. Are there further questions or comments from members? I don't see any. I support as well. And one important reason for me is the relationship that it gives us with the NII and being able to plug into that. You'll note in this report, there's a board position from the MIC on the NII, and the things that are happening, just as the MIC has become quite successful over the last 3 years, so too has the NII, and it's beginning to make some really significant, has some significant projects underway in areas of artificial intelligence, blockchain, all sorts of areas. Now they're focused on the nuclear industry, but there are, I think, applications that could serve us well in the municipal sector, and us being there and connected to that is going to come, I think, with great value for us. The only comment I will make is that I would like to see more members. I really think, the NII is an organization, the Clean Energy Frontier is the Tri-County area, Grey, Bruce, and Huron. And I think that our membership at the MIC should also cover Grey, Bruce, and Huron. I think if we had additional horsepower and additional municipalities would make the MIC stronger. And so I certainly hope that all of the existing members sign up. I hope all Bruce County municipalities sign up. They're not all signed up at the moment, so hopefully they all will. And that we can also get great municipalities like Owen Sound, like Goderich, like Grey Highlands, and all those. There's some really great municipalities in Grey and Huron counties, and it would be great to have them in the partnership. So hopefully we can work on that and see that happen. The Vice Deputy Mayor.
Late question, and the 30,915 annual contribution, hypothetically, if 4 of the 8 municipalities rejoin, what happens at that point? I'm not saying it's going to be 4 of 8. Hopefully all 8 will join, but what happens at that point?
I hadn't anticipated that question, so I'm just pausing a moment to
I
answer it.
just-
So
I
through you,
just
Mr.
thought of
Mayor,
it.
yeah. And I think that if that were to be the case, and I hope that it wouldn't be, then we would be returning to this council
Yeah.
to have a conversation
I
about
thought
what
so.
next steps would look like.
That's the answer. I was hoping to hear. Thank you.
Well, it's a good question, and we certainly hope that all the members rejoin. And the MIC successful relies on that. And when you look at a thing like the smart beach project, for an example, it would be great to have the municipality of South Bruce Peninsula included, because who could benefit more than Sauble Beach for a program like that, just as an example. So anyway, I know Kara and the group there will make the pitch, and hopefully we'll get the existing members and new ones. So with that, if there's nothing further, you've heard the recommendation. All in favor? That is carried. Okay, we're on to the second report, which is a staff report on the 2023 business plan timelines. And I see the Director of Corporate Services.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you onto council. The report before you is presenting the 2023 business plan timelines with the recommendation that we work towards budget approval in March of 2023. 2023 is going to be a unique budget year in the sense that we have a new incoming council, and it's an excellent opportunity for that new council to set their priorities for the upcoming 4-year term. At the same time, we'll be doing our first ever 10-year business plan. In doing so, council will be able to take the opportunity to have a long-term focus on their decision-making and be able to smooth out the impacts of major initiatives, as well as external impacts that we do not have direct control over, but by taking a longer horizon, they will have a smaller immediate impact. The other thing that's worth noting is that we're launching new budget software. That certainly is an added challenge. However, with a great reward, because in the end, we will have a much more robust product as we present our business plan. At the moment, we're in the process of loading information into the new budgeting software. And as a next step, we'll be planning meetings in August with council, where council can lay out the key priorities for the business plan, which of course would be informed by council's strategic plan. Based on those sessions, we'll be taking the key priorities that council has laid out for us, and through the months of September through December, we will be using that as we develop a draft business plan. We'll bring that back to council in January to review the preliminary business plan and look for council to provide us direction on how we need to fine tune the preliminary plan. We will then take that information and in early February return with the operating portion of the 10-year business plan, which would obviously also include the 2023 operating budget itself. In the same regard, in late February, we'll be doing the same thing on the capital side. Based on the information or the feedback we received from council in February, we'll then work towards bringing back a consolidated business plan and budget to council in March. That would include both the operating and capital budgets, the 2023 tax rates, as well as plans over the 10-year duration of the plan for both reserves and debt. This is only one component of what's going to be required for the town to be successful. The other is policy deployment. In policy deployment, we'll be having two-way communications between managers and employees in setting the objectives. The objectives that we need to deliver upon in order to deliver what is contained within that business plan. As well, we'll want to be able to measure that what we're trying to achieve in those objectives is being realized, and we'll be doing that through key performance indicators. All of that work is going to be done through the months of October through March, so that when the final business plan is approved and the final budgets are approved by council in March, that staff have clear marching orders on where they need to go and what they need to do in order to achieve all of the objectives that council has set before us. So the recommendation is before you that for approval of the timeline as presented.
Yeah, thank you very much. There is a recommendation that council endorse the 2023 business plan timelines, working toward budget approval in March 2023. Questions or comments from members, the Vice Deputy Mayor, and then Councillor Davinsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and to you to Jim. Jim, I just, with the schedule, over the years, the last 3 years at least, this council has move the budget process a lot earlier into November, December, and I think that new council coming in December for the first meeting in December this year, the schedule does make sense because it gives a little time for staff orientation and training and so on and so forth. So I guess my question is, I kind of liked the budget's coming in late November and December and put to bed in, January, February. This is about a month later, I think, but I could stand be corrected, but I know our budget meetings were in December, January. Do you see that once the new council is elected in 2023, 2024? Do you see that the budget timelines change once council's had 1 year under their belt and staff have done their planning? Do you see budget meetings going back to November, December after this year's budget?
That is correct. We should be able to, and it is far more desirable in order to have a budget approved earlier, because then staff have clear marching orders earlier on, so they can start in January already knowing what their objectives are. So that's, in most years, does make sense, but obviously we do need to make sure that the new council is comfortable, and they have a lot of priorities to set as they're coming on board.
Yeah, just follow up, Mr. Mayor. That was my point, I guess, Jim, is, with capital projects and tendering and so on and so forth, it just, when you get to, this budget meetings happening in November, December, we can get it to the shoot really quick, try and get that best possible pricing in the new year. So that's good to hear that we'll return probably in a year from now, if we're still on council around this table, that we'll look at that earlier budget process the following year. So that's good to hear. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Davinsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, the Vice Deputy Mayor has answered my number one question. And but I have another, Jim, and I didn't run this by you earlier, but it just came to me as we were sitting here. In a long time ago, when I was in another world doing another job, we had budgets, 5-year plans, and for a while, 10-year plans. And we found that the 10-year plans tended to be a waste of time because things changed so drastically before you even got to year 6, 7, 8, and so on. I don't know whether this is what goes around comes around, but is a 10-year forecast a viable tool now in today's day and age? And again, I apologize for not throwing that by you earlier.
No, I'm happy to answer that question. I can tell you that as soon as you do any plan, the following day, the plan is obsolete. That's the nature of any sort of planning, but that does not mean that the plan that you made was for naught. The process of planning is a valuable process, and you'll end up with a better result because of that planning. The other piece, even though things change, when you're planning over a 10-year horizon, that does mean that we can smooth out any of these impacts over a longer duration, which does make it easier for ratepayers. It's that up and down when you have a year where you don't have much of a tax increase, and then all of a sudden there's a major shock in the system, often externally driven. And if you're driving that all into a single year, that can be difficult for ratepayers that are already dealing with that external shock on their own. And then on top of it, then you have the town throwing in a tax rate where they're trying to get everything back in that year. Or even if you're doing it over 5 years, it's still a much more significant impact. If you can do it over 10 years, it will make it a lot easier on the residents. So I have found from my experience that it did work well. And made it a lot easier to roll out the changes and the impacts that we were facing to our citizens in the community.
Well, your experience would overrule mine. Mine had nothing to do with taxpayers. So thank you very much, Jim. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Are there further questions or comments from members? Yeah, I think that's a really good point that Jim makes about our ability to not necessarily predict exactly what we're going to be doing in 10 years or even in 4 or 5 years, but to plan well enough to raise funds so that we can, as he says, smooth out the tax levy and make sure that we are building appropriate reserves and building up the tax base appropriately so that we know whatever comes at us, we will have financing in place to handle something of that magnitude, right? So I think it's a good process, a smart process, and I'm very glad our administration has the capacity now and the foresight to start to organize it. So I'm much appreciation to the director for his work on that. So you've heard the recommendation. There's nothing further, then all in favor. That's carried. Okay, now we're on to the third staff report, which is the Municipal Service Delivery Review Implementation Zoning Coordinator and the CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When the Municipal Service Delivery Review was presented to council, the plan was to reprofile the position of Administrative Assistant in Building Services to a Zoning Coordinator. Since that time, staff have really been reviewing the customer service needs of our organization. And the recommendation tonight is, instead of reprofiling this existing position, that council consider the creation of a new position to accommodate the organizational need. As I mentioned, we started taking a closer look at customer service needs, and the decision was made that the two existing, sorry, just have something. Oh, sorry. My apologies. The decision was made to keep the two existing administrative assistants, Public Works and Community Services within the reimagined Community Services and Operations Department, as opposed to separating those. By keeping them together, it did create an administrative gap within Development Services. If we were to move forward with reprofiling the admin assistant to a zoning coordinator, this would further underservice that Development Services Department and administrative support and frontline customer service. Attached to the report tonight was a detailed job description for council's consideration. And just to highlight for those online, the zoning coordinator would report to the chief building official and provide zoning related support to the building division of the Development Services Department. This position would be responsible for reviewing all building applications for zoning compliance and supporting inquiries relating to zoning related matters. It would also support the Committee of Adjustment and work closely with the town's planning division to help organize the development files and fees and keep the town's zoning bylaw up to date. With the level of development being experienced in Saugeen Shores, this position will be an asset to the organization to coordinate and streamline our development process. In addition, by creating this role, we support keeping that administrative role or customer service representative role in development services, which will enhance our customer service experience for the entire development industry. The proposal in front of you would add an additional $98,000 to the annual funding for staffing in the Building Services Division, and is recommended that that would be funded from the building permit fees. Our building permit fees do deliver a surplus annually, and our reserve is in a positive situation, so we don't anticipate that this position would have an impact to that surplus. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. There's a recommendation that council authorize the additional annual funding of $98,685 for the zoning coordinator position within the Building Services Division to be funded from the building permit fees. Is there questions or comments? Councillor Davinsky.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and through you to Kara. My number one question is, could it speed up the process in both Committee of Adjustment and Planning Committee work?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Both the Committee of Adjustment and Planning Committees have legislative timelines that we must follow. So those are often set in legislation. Where I think this position will have a really big impact is for that frontline piece. When people aren't sure what to do with their property, there'll be a direct conduit for them to get information. And so it may not speed up, for example, the Committee of Adjustment process, but it will help people find that process when they need it quicker than what we're able to deliver now. So it does have an impact to the overall process and the experience that people are having when interacting with the town.
Thank you, Kara. And Mr. Mayor, if I may, you've already explained the 98,000, and it is an annual cost that we would have to deal with. The timeline on hiring such an individual, is it sooner or later?
Yeah, thank you for the question. And through you, Mr. Mayor, if council decides to move forward with this tonight, we would start to advance the recruitment. The recruitment takes about 3 to 4 months usually to recruit an individual into a new role. So we'd be probably looking at about a quarter of the funding for the position this year, and that annual cost would be built into the 2023 budget.
Mr. Mayor, I think this is a terrific idea, and it's a great step to streamlining some of our services at the front end. And I'm fully going to support this, and I hope everyone else will too. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. I think I have Councillor Mayette, and then I'll come to the Deputy Mayor, and I got Councillor Smith too.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Not having a whole lot of background in this other than reading the the draft job description and the report and now hearing it explained by the CAO, my first reaction was one of hesitation in that this does have significant budget implications on a go-forward basis. And certainly it wasn't budgeted for in the 2022 budget, and it would have budget implications for 2023 and beyond. Second, that it was not a direct recommendation of the municipal review that was conducted. This is an addition, and the fact that the municipal review has resulted already in, if my calendar serves me right, 3 additional full-time equivalent positions to staff. Now, I hear that the building department is busy, and that they, you know, as Councillor Davinsky pointed out, there are issues with people's timelines being met and so on and so forth. But I would, as I said, my first inkling on this was one of hesitation, and I would much rather see us perhaps move into a contract position on a go-forward basis, and then figure out whether or not the benefits of having a position such as this are realized before we embed it into the organization on a go-forward basis. So I'm in a position of hesitation at this point in time, and I'm not sure whether or not I'll be supporting this. Thank you.
Okay, the CIO would like to make a comment.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Mayor, I just would like to point out that the Municipal Service Delivery Review did recommend this position. So it recommended that a zoning coordinator position be created at the town, but that we would reprofile the administrative assistant in order to accommodate that position. So there was some budget dollars included in the 2022 budget in order to support the zoning coordinator position, but it did mean that that frontline piece would be reprofiled. So essentially that frontline piece would not exist. And so what I'm suggesting you tonight is that frontline piece is sort of essential to the business that we're doing in development services in particular, and that we should consider it. So I just wanted to note that the Municipal Service Delivery Review did recommend the position.
Sure.
My understanding was, and I thank you for the response. Certainly that helps. My understanding was that since the building permitting system has gone to more of an online system, we invested significant dollars in the past couple of years coming up with a new platform where it's people don't necessarily walk in the front door and apply for permits the way they did before. It's done through an online application that people get on their builders and developers get on their phone, and they can track all of their inspections and things. I thought that the frontline position was more of a diminished role, and that the recommendations from the Municipal Service Review were appropriate, and that position should be rebranded or reallocated to this job. And so for us to add another position on top of that at $98,000 a year, I'm hesitant at this point in time in the planning budgeting process. We're making a commitment for a council which hasn't been elected yet, and I'm hesitating. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on. I have quite a queue built up. So I got Matheson, Smith, Jakes, and Carr. So we'll start with Matheson, the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, this is to the CAO. Kara, are there any other municipalities that have this position already?
Yeah, there is. I don't have them at the top of my head, but yes.
Do we have a range of salaries that go with it? Just looking at this is a rather high-end salary position compared to what some of the other staff will have in there, but do we have a range of salaries?
Yeah, and I know we have the manager of human resources on the line with us tonight if she did want to get into specifics. I just wanted to point out that the actual salary range is 64,000 to 72,000. That 98 includes the benefit cost to us as an organization. The other piece is that we are going through a job evaluation process. So we do have Gallagher and Associates that are working for us right now that will review all of these job posts or job positions and make sure that they're properly banded on the town's grid. So when they do that job evaluation process, they will confirm that grade 6 is where this position belongs in relation to the industry and what's going on there.
Okay, that's good. And you said this will be funded from the building permits. So technically it's not from any tax levy, it's from the building permits that are coming in.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Smith next.
Thank you. And through you, my question is similar to that of the Deputy Mayor. Related to benchmarking, I'd be interested to see if there are any quantitative benefits realized from other municipalities or organizations similar to that have implemented, I guess it would only be municipalities in this case, that have implemented such a position. I too, like Councillor Mayette, have shared concerns in an era where we're moving towards automation. It feels counterproductive to be implementing a customer service related position. And I wonder if we hadn't considered something more innovative like a virtual assistant, not in a traditional automated sense, but something that might be more cost effective in not needing to be housed or some of the benefits that increase that cost. So I would be more comfortable, similar to my colleague, with a contract position as a starting place.
Okay, no, okay, so we'll move on then to Councillor Jakes.
Question regarding the new position. Will they be involved with any of the new things that we put in place regarding the ADUs, or when we put in place the CPPS? For doing that, for packaging things up or explaining what that is, or explaining the ADUs and the new bylaws, and even working into we're in the business plan of short-term rentals, which last I looked on Airbnb, we had, I think it was close to 900. So I'm just wondering if that would be part of the position.
Yeah, thank you for the question, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Where I think that the position will provide the most benefit is when potential applicants are seeking information, right? So those that have sit on the Committee of Adjustment see those applications when people are coming through, and it's a minor piece that they can't get a building permit because they don't align with the zoning bylaw. And that zoning bylaw is fairly complex, or is very complex, right, to interpret. And so it really is around that customer service piece and helping people find their way into that cloud permit or that online virtual world. And I'm not entirely certain that people could find their way into that virtual world without some level of assistance because of the complexity of the regulations that we work in. So to answer your question, Councillor Jakes, they would, as we bring on bigger changes and more opportunity for people as it relates to ARUs and secondary suites and that kind of thing, we're going to have an increased number of people that are going to need assistance finding their way through that zoning bylaw in order to access a building permit.
Okay, I got Councillor Carr, and I'll come back to the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. My questions, a few of them have been answered by a few of the other colleagues that have voiced some concerns here. I'm the same when we're looking at the municipal service delivery review. I understand that this was sort of recommended just by reprofiling. And I do understand that we do need somebody up front. I can understand some of these, but I think I'd be more supportive if we were to look at a contract position at this time. I think I'd be a little bit more comfortable with that too. I know we are booming. I know things are really busy here right now, but we can't see the future either. Who knows what's going to happen over the next few years as things are changing, as we're coming out of the last few years. Hopefully we continue to see the same amount of growth as we have at this point. But at this time, I'm still apprehensive to support this one as a full-time position. I just don't think I'd be there yet.
Okay, and the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through you, I just want to support what the CAO just said about the online cloud system. It is very tricky. I myself am going through it at the moment and was in contact with town staff 3 times today just to verify and clarify certain parts of it as we go through it. So we do need the people up front. Is it contract? Is it permanent? I'm not sure. That'll be for council to decide. But excuse me, going through the process, we do have a lot of people doing this. And if you're not really in the know, it's very hard for the common person in town to go through the various different processes that are required. So we do need somebody up front to help with that.
Okay. Just want to make a comment. And it's important, I think, to remember. I just looked it up. Went back to the budget and looked at the operating reserve balances, right? And the estimated balance in the building department operating reserve at the end of this year is $1.845 million, right? We're building up a very large operating reserve in the building department. And I think it's time we turn some of that money to help builders build things, right? Like that we need to add the horsepower to the department. We haven't added horsepower to the building department. I can't remember when we added horsepower to the building department. We've relied on 3 people to build, you know, what have we added in terms of residents in the last 5 years, right? And what are we going to add in the next 5 years? We have to have additional horsepower, and it can't just be for 1 year on a contract. We need to have, we need to invest more money in additional bodies in the department. That the municipal service delivery review anticipated a zoning coordinator, but I don't think that we should look askance, particularly at this question of adding an additional person to help provide some upfront support. We want to provide service to those builders, and not just the large developers, but the day-to-day person coming in for a building permit. We have an awful lot of people, and we're bringing in a lot of money from those people. And the reason we're bringing that money in is to serve them, right? That's all it can be used for. That's why it's piling up in the reserve, because we can't spend it on anything else. The reason why these fees are built in to the building code and through provincial legislation is so municipalities adequately fund and service their development operations. And this is part of that. So I think we should really not, if we're going to pinch pennies, let's not pinch them here. We have the pennies, we have the dollars, we have $1,800,000 plus whatever we're going to bring in this year, which is going to be several $100,000 more, which is just going to pile up in that reserve. So let's turn some of that money loose. Let's get some additional horsepower in the building department. Let's serve that building community in a way that we need to do it. So I fully support the recommendation and hope to see it passed. Vice Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I spent a bit of time in here walking around the offices and talking to staff and look at the building permit fees on number of permits on the wall and number of dollars, and they're pushed hard. The fastest growing municipality in Cranbrook counties, and they're being pushed really hard in our building department. And I think anytime we can better coordinate and streamline our development processes, I think that's a good thing. And anytime we can improve our frontline development services, customer service experience is a good thing. We've had complaints about that. Well, let's address it. The 1.8 million, that was one of my questions going to be of tonight, is the building permit, fees, the reserve account. And you asked the question, Mr. Mayor, and that was one of the questions I had written down. It's healthy. And I agree with you. Spend some of those dollars. I think they need help in that department. It's they're pushed hard, real hard. And so I'm going to be supporting this. I think this is a really good thing we're doing. And Kara, CIO, thanks for bringing it forward. I think it's something we have to do. So.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you. And through you, I'm hearing your sentiments, and I'm really taking them in. I'm struggling a bit with one of the comments that was made earlier about the new processes or the cloud and inability of our user groups, whether they be builders or constituents, to navigate the new processes that we put in place. And thereby we need an individual to help them through that. And it begs the question that, are we entering into our agreements with these new technologies in a way that's wise? Or do we have, are we fixing the problem, or are we just putting a person to help other people get through the problem? So is there room, this is obviously not unique to Saugeen Shores, and the list for MIC is growing quite long, but is there a way in which we could perhaps add this to a future list for MIC to look at ways in which we can support the cloud application in a way that doesn't require a person to tell people how to use it?
My apologies, through you, Mr. Mayor, maybe misspoke. The issue isn't when you're in the software program, like we're meeting our legislative timeline, which is to turn around a building permit within 10 days. And we are meeting those. And as the mayor said, our staff are working really hard to make sure that happens. So once people submit the permit, they're moving through and they're getting their permit in 10 days. It's that piece leading up to the permit and helping you figure out what you need in order to be successful in getting a permit. And that isn't the online portal. It's that interpretation of the zoning bylaw, which is really why we've highlighted that this position is focused on that zoning interpretation.
Yeah, everything that I hear from members of the public and also my own personal experience is that the portal is good to use. I hear mostly positive things, almost entirely positive things about using the portal, but you always need human beings behind it to help to do the work, right? That just gives you that gives you the access, but somebody then has to deal with that application and make sure it's processed correctly and read the zoning bylaw and make sure that permits when they're issued are issued in accordance with the law, right? So, and that's just a huge flood of work. Like, I think we can't underestimate how much work is coming in on that front. And every one of these building permits requires a look at the zoning bylaw. And some of them are simple and some of them are quite complex, right? So it's just additional horsepower to make that team in building services more efficient and effective at serving the public and issuing those permits. Anyway, we had a very good debate and I appreciate everybody's comments. And I've you've heard the recommendation, so I'm going to ask all in favor. And opposed? That is carried. Okay. So now we're on to 7.4, which is a staff report on gateway sign agreement 5084 Highway 21. And we have the Director of Community Services Operations.
Thank you. And through you, this is a very short one. The new owners of 5084 Highway 21 Holding Incorporated of Aunt Mabel's Country Kitchen and Motel have signed a 5-year lease agreement for the provision of land to accommodate the gateway sign, the Port Elgin gateway sign, just at the corner of the highway there. So I'm happy the agreement is attached. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. There's a recommendation that council pass a bylaw to authorize a 5-year agreement with 5084 Highway 21 Holding Incorporated for the occupation of land to accommodate the Port Elgin Gateway sign. Is there questions or comments from members? Councillor Smith and then the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. And through you, just a comment that I don't think has been noted yet, but a thank you to staff for the installation of the solar lights associated with those gateway signs. Great addition, and I'll be supporting this as well.
Great. The Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through you, with the proposed development to the south of Aunt Mabel's, will that be affecting the gateway sign, the proposed hotel? To our director?
CEO.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Mayor, we have not contemplated that yet, so we can take that back and I can return with to council with further information.
Thank you. And do we have solar, just as an aside, do we have proper lighting at the Southampton gateway sign at the north end of town?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, I can check with staff and get back to council on that.
Thank you.
Councillor Matt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'll obviously be supporting this at $1 a year. They're getting quite a good deal, I guess, or we're getting a good deal. We're getting a good deal. I think the hotel might come into play. That was part of what I was going to say as well. But also, when I'm driving in, I come in from the south most every day, I guess, and there's significant trees and foliage in front of the sign. And I've mentioned it a couple times to some of the town staff that I know it's not our property, but some of it's just overgrown poplars or stuff that needs to be trimmed out so that we can take full advantage of this solar lighting that we have on that sign. Thank you.
Okay. Further questions or comments? I don't see any, so all in favor? That's carried. Okay, so that brings us to the end of our reports and we're on to 7.7 petitions for information, 2 items there. Anybody wish to discuss either of those items? Don't see any desire to do that. So that takes us on to item 9, report of department heads, and we have an information report on the water inspection report. And we have Colin Sanders on. Colin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Drinking water inspection report. This is done, inspections are done annually. This one was conducted on February 9th of our water system. And the report was issued on March the 9th. Now, typically, I would have a report next council meeting outlining the inspection report, any operational deficiencies, any problems, and the rating. Ministry of Environment this year has changed their computer programming, and it wasn't until May 24th, the end of May, that we actually received our rating. This is why I decided to wait instead of 2 reports. Let's do them both in one. The report itself, rating itself, was lower than what we're typically having, 98 to 100%. I have outlined slightly in here just the reasoning for that. We do have Dan McLeod, who is the project manager for Aqua, on the call. are on the meeting. He can answer your technical questions regarding that, what happened with it. I do make note too, just going through some emails as we're getting ready for the meeting here, Councillor Dubinsky did send some questions to me. I apologize for not getting back to you earlier. Hopefully we can get those questions answered for you this evening. So we open the floor to any questions from councillors, and we can bring Dan on as well. So any technical questions, I think he'll probably take the lead on that.
Okay, thank you, Colin. I do see Dan there. So welcome, Dan. And we'll ask if there's questions or comments from members of the committee. Councillor Dubinsky.
Okay, I have several questions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Was the failure mechanical or human error or a combination of both?
Yes, so
I'm sorry, I'm not directing it to anybody, but
Yeah,
Dan
Dan.
or Colin?
Yeah. No,
Dan, you
I
can answer that.
absolutely.
Maybe just before you get right into that, could you just, for anybody who may be listening, just explain what occurred there so that folks understand what we're talking about when we talk about
Sure.
what Councilor Dubinsky's called a failure?
Absolutely. So on March 21st, 2021, we had an instrument controller. So in the facility, there's a number of filters, and each of the filters require a meter to monitor the turbidity. We have controllers that take the information from these meters and transmit it through to our automated SCADA system. And we had a controller that over time it aged and it ended up failing. We did, however, have new stuff installed. It just wasn't, the final piece of connecting it to our SCADA system wasn't in place yet. And so it was a instrumentation failure, not a human error. It was an instrumentation failure. And we reported it because we thought we had lost some data. The new stuff that we had installed actually had backup data collectors in it. We managed to collect our data, so we were not in any way, shape, or form treating or distributing unsafe water. However, the instrument that did fail was never equipped from original installation with an alarm to say that the communication between that instrument and the computer system actually failed. So that is actually what we got the non-compliance for. And so as soon as we were made aware of that, we worked with the SCADA integrator to ensure that any instrument that is connected to the SCADA system required for our disinfection was equipped with that kind of heartbeat or communication failure alarm, so that kind of thing wouldn't happen in the future.
So when you install one of these, wouldn't you test it right then and there, or are you in a position to test the new piece of equipment so that you would know that this one didn't have an alarm system connected with it?
Theoretically, yes. This could have been done at the implementation time back in 2006 when the plant was upgraded initially. But as I mentioned, it's an older piece of equipment at that time that we were unaware that it did not have that failure alarm in place.
Okay, if I can continue, Mr. Mayor. When I was reading the report, it originally said that there was a problem at filter train number 1. And now it says filter train number 1 and number 2. So is that two issues now instead of one?
No, the original controller that collected that information was a common controller between the two filters. So it collected the information from both filter 1 and 2, transmitted the data back to the SCADA system.
Because of the resultant turbidity, did citizens get disinfected water?
The water was always disinfected and safe, which is why there was no adverse water quality incident actually issued.
And my final question right now is, since the alarm had to be, the alarm board had to be replaced, have other alarms been double checked as a result of this incident in the plant?
Yeah, so we actually made improvements where any of the instruments related to the disinfection equipment goes beyond just the turbidity, are now equipped with those heartbeat or communication style alarms.
And would alarms be anywhere else in the system that maybe should be checked?
Yeah, the plant has hundreds of different alarms, and we do routinely check them, monitor those, and ensure that they are working properly. So this one particular was unique in the fact that we had never received any kind of issue like that. So the fact that we got this one, and obviously I got that addressed as soon as we were made aware of the issue, definitely helped us improve going forward, that we can eliminate issues like that.
I apologize if some of my questions were simple, if you will, but I don't know much about it. But I do know that 96% obviously you're not happy with, and the town wouldn't be happy with as well. But the problem is solved. Nobody was hurt, and we move on. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Are there further questions or comments from members? I don't see any. I think that Councilor Davinsky sort of at the end there put the nail on the head, that obviously a 96% is never going to be acceptable to Aqua or to the town, and we want 100%. Our goal and our strong desire is always to achieve 100% on these inspection reports. So, but what it does show also is that when there is an issue, that we have backups, and that we have a process in place to identify those issues before things go wrong, and so that we do not ever end up in a situation where water that is unsafe is distributed to the system. We continue to have an extremely safe water system in the town of Saugeen Shores. We have had all along, and that will continue. And these things like this just make us better. So we do appreciate your work on it and your attention to it, and also Aqua's work in terms of its treatment of water across the municipality. Aqua's a great partner, and we'll look forward to seeing that partnership continue. So thank you.
Thank you.
So we have then now reached the end of the committee of the whole agenda. So we'll have some statements by members and the deputy mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The school year is just about ended. We have many graduations happening this week in our public schools, not only for kindergarten, but our grade 8s going off into high school next year. So as the time comes, there'll be more and more people out playing on the road. So please be careful of where you're driving, watching, not only for pedestrians, but cyclists as well. And June, it will be ending up very shortly, which ends Bike Safety Month, and there's been a lot of people out biking, which is good to see. Our trails are in excellent shape, so please keep biking. Make sure you follow the rules of the road, and keep an eye out for all those kids playing.
Thank you. School is not only out for summer, school is out forever for the deputy mayor. So we'll offer our congratulations to you on your retirement, Deputy Mayor Mattson. Vice Deputy Mayor.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, last Saturday, I just want to congratulate the Chantry Senior Center celebrated their 30th anniversary, and you were there, Mr. Mayor, spoke well, of course, and Councilor Davinsky was there. And congratulations to Connie Barker, president. She's she really made that place come alive. She's working really hard, and Sybil Mercer was there, of course. They unveiled this wall hanging done by the rug hookers, they called them, and the rug hookers. And there's 30 years, and they explained which every year meant, over the course of their term of the Chantry Senior Center opened 30 years ago. So it was really I think it was better than 100 people. There was a big crowd. It was full. They'd bring out more chairs, and I just want to congratulate them. It was a wonderful day there last Saturday afternoon, and well attended, and good food and drink, and so congratulations to the Chantry Senior Center, and you do lots of good stuff over there for seniors 50 plus. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You bet. Councilor Jakes.
I just want to say thank you to the big band committee that did the event in Southampton on the weekend. It was lovely. As a former member for 10 years of that committee, I know how hard they worked, and it was a new concept. I think it was well received. And I also want to say thank you to the town staff, the permanent as well, if some of the summer students have started as well, for the downtown core, looking so nice with the hanging baskets and the planters, and also to the BIAs for contributing to make sure that our towns look great for our visitors and residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Smith.
Thank you. I'll stay on the BIA plug for just a moment. Just a reminder that the Port Elgin BIA offers a market on Wednesday mornings in the Coulter Parquet, usually well attended by both vendors and individuals. And as we look forward to nicer weather, we can get out and enjoy those. And lastly, just a reminder that the Saugeen Shores Minor Hockey Association registration is open for anyone interested to get those kids registered.
Thank you, Counselor Dubinsky.
Busy weekend last weekend, and boy, it's going to get busier as the summer goes on. That's exciting. On Friday, I attended the Marine Heritage Society thank you barbecue for town staff and for media sponsors of the upcoming Marine Heritage Festival. And a good time was had by all, and it was a pleasure being there. That night, I went to the Winterhawks banquet, and I must admit, people are coming out to things because the Winterhawks banquet, I think, was the best one attended by far. And I'm so glad that the people came out and supported the guys and gals who work for the Saugeen Shores Winterhawks. Finally, as Vice Deputy Mayor Myatt said, Chantry Center on Saturday. Thank you and happy anniversary, happy 30th anniversary to the Chantry Center. Now, tomorrow, if you have the opportunity, the cyclist, and I'm sorry, I'm going to have to apologize, the name escapes me, but there was a breakfast at the Masons that the mayor and the deputy, vice deputy mayor attended on Friday. And tomorrow at 8:30, he's actually leaving. And you can send him off if you wish, make a donation, whatever, right at the Mason Hall. And I understand this chap has already raised $55,000, and he's on his way to Montreal to the Shriners burn unit there, I believe, and he will be raising money along the way. If you get a chance, get out and see him tomorrow morning at 8:30. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And his name is Alex Rocket, and he's off like a rocket heading to Montreal. So we're all cheering for him. Counselor Grace.
Nothing tonight. Sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Carr.
Nothing from me either tonight.
Okay, Counselor Myatt.
Couple of things, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Through you. I first of all had the pleasure of attending the Clean Energy Frontier quarterly meeting at the Bruce Powers Visitor Center on Tuesday last week. And it was really actually a great meeting, and it was addressed by Mike Renchek, the CEO, and also a consultant that did a presentation on the economic impact of the nuclear industry on our region. And some of the statistics that were presented are quite frankly staggering, how much benefit. And we live it and we know it. So there's that. And also the great things that the Nuclear Innovation Center is doing, the frontier of developing isotopes, which it was announced last week that the first deuterium isotopes were harvested from Unit 6 of Bruce Power. So this is a great milestone. Deuterium is an isotope that's used to treat prostate and breast cancer. So it's in much need in the medical industry, and our area is at the forefront of producing it, along with cobalt and several others on the forefront. So that was a great meeting. And then subsequent to that, I had the pleasure of representing the mayor and council at the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative, which is a collaboration of cities and towns and municipalities around the Great Lakes, both on the American and Canadian side, at a conference down in St. Catharines, Niagara-on-the-Lake. And it was actually a terrific conference. And my plan is to put together a condensed report for council, but suffice to say that there was a very passionate group of people there, a lot of mayors, a lot of representatives, municipal staff who are really passionate. The group, you could feel the passion in the room for preserving, not only preserving, enhancing the benefit of that we all enjoy being on the Great Lakes, but also leveraging that advantage to our greatest benefit. And one of the greatest things that they do as a group is they collaborate together to lobby county, municipal, county, provincial, federal, and on the American side, county, state, and federal governments to make sure that we are heard at those levels, and the grants and the support that's needed is forthcoming, and that when those organizations, i.e. our federal government, makes significant promises, that they're held to account for those promises, and the money actually gets delivered, and that some of those programs that we're going to need going forward, and we're talking about resiliency and the impacts of climate change and those types of things are going to have on all the municipalities and towns on the Great Lakes. It was a great conference, and it's a great initiative, and they're doing lots of great work. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for attending that on council's behalf, Councillor. And we're going to do another lightning round here because I have the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Grace want to go again. So we'll go to Councillor Grace first because she hasn't spoken, and we'll go to the Deputy Mayor after that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I neglected to mention an upcoming event, which is the Canada Day celebration in downtown Southampton at the Flag.
When is that again?
There will be performances and food provided, I believe, by the Rotary Club and other events, and of course topped off by fireworks if the weather cooperates, and hope it will. So the Chamber of Commerce is involved in putting that on, and of course our town tourism staff. So hope everybody can come out to that.
Yeah, just an awesome time in the community. There was what the day of on the weekend walking downtown Southampton with all of the bands playing on all the patios and all the people down there. What a time. It's just the best. And there's, like with Canada Day, it's so many great things. You guys have covered most of it. We did attend the Westario Power AGM with the Deputy Mayor and CAO last week, and also along with the Vice Deputy Mayor cut ribbons on 4 new businesses last Thursday, and so lots of activity in the business sector carrying on as well. But I do want finally just a very important thing to conclude with. This is going to be the last meeting of our clerk, Linda White, and with the town of Saugeen Shores, and we have council's had the opportunity to thank her before the meeting, but I did want to speak publicly as well on that. Clerk Linda White has served the town of Saugeen Shores for over 30 years and served several councils, and I have been on a few of them, and she has served them all extremely well. And I know I can speak for every member of every council today, and dating back to the beginning of the municipality, or back 30 years at least, not all the way to the beginning, but back 30 years in the municipality. I know it is unanimous that we all say thank you to Linda for her service to our community. I am the only one who is fortunate enough to get to continue to work with Linda going forward at the County of Bruce. And of course, I'm very much looking forward to that. And I know that she will serve the county as well as she has served us. So thank you, Linda. Do you have any words for us?
I do not. I do want to express my appreciation, Mayor Charbonneau and Council. It's been an absolute pleasure and an honor to serve the town of Saugeen Shores.
Thank you. And I will just note that sitting beside Linda tonight is Deborah Roth, who is going to be our interim clerk. And we're very happy to have Deborah here tonight. She's very experienced and it's good to have her on board. So that brings us to the end of the Committee of the Whole, and I got a motion to adjourn. The Deputy Mayor and Councillor Smith, all in favor. Committee of the Whole stands adjourned, and we will reconvene at 07:50.
Tracy, we have all members present. If you can stop sharing the screen. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, it's 7:50. And we have all members present, and you may call to order this regular council meeting of the town of Saugeen Shores.
Thank you, Linda. I'd like to call to order this regular council meeting. Second item on the agenda is disclosure of pecuniary interest. Asking a member if you have one of those you'd like to declare. Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am declaring a pecuniary interest for numbers 9.2 and 9.3 regarding the official plan amendment for Saugeen Shores additional residential units and the zoning bylaw amendment for additional residential units. I own a property which is rented on a short-term basis. After reviewing the report and webcast for the June 20th, 2022 Planning Committee meeting, from which I was absent, I believe I have a pecuniary interest based on section 3.1.1 of the zoning bylaw, which states that, quote, an accessory use shall not include any occupation for gain or profit conducted within a dwelling unit on the lot, end quote.
Okay, thank you. Any other pecuniary interests to declare? Councillor Mayette.
Mr. Mayor, after hearing that pecuniary interest, I believe that I am in a similar, if not same position. So I will take what Councillor Grace said and declare pecuniary interest on the same. Thank you.
Thank you. That is a ditto. Very good. Are there further questions or comments? Or pardon me, declarations of pecuniary interest? I don't see any. Of course, you can declare one anytime you need to. We have no public meetings. We do have an addition to the agenda. Sorry, I just back to item 3, additions, deletions, and amendments. And we do have one addition. I have a resolution that the agenda be amended to add a close to public session under section 10.1 for the purpose of completing the earlier closed meeting agenda to discuss a proposed acquisition of land. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by the deputy mayor, seconded by the vice deputy mayor. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, now we are on to adoption of the minutes, and I have a resolution that council adopt the minutes of the special and regular council meetings of June 13, 2022, and note and file the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting of June 13, 2022, as presented. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Mayette, seconded by Grace. Any questions or comments to those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. All right, now that moves us then on to, reports of the committee of the whole. And we have one report, which is a general government report regarding update to the Lamont Sports Park terms of reference. And I have a resolution that council approve the update to the Lamont Sports Park terms of reference. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by the deputy mayor, second by Councillor Davinsky. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Okay, now we are on to bylaws, and there are 5 bylaws there for your consideration. Now, Councillor Grace has declared a pecuniary interest on items 2 and 3, bylaws 57 and 56. So with consent of council, we can consider those 2 separately. And so we'll begin then. Does anybody else want to have any of the others drawn out for individual consideration? No requests for that. So we will consider to begin bylaws 1, 4, and 5 on this list. Actually, we'll have to do them in 3 separate because we can't confirm the proceedings until we finish the proceedings. So 3 resolutions then. The first one, that the following bylaws are hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 27th day of June, 2022. 155, 2022 being a bylaw to authorize a road construction agreement with Chris Kovac. And 458, 2022 being a bylaw to authorize a nuclear emergency preparedness funding agreement with Bruce Power. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Smith, seconded by Jakes. Any questions or comments to those 2 bylaws? Seeing none, then all in favor? That is carried. So now we'll move on to consider 2 and 3, and we'll let Councillor Grace recuse herself. And Councillor Mayette, sorry. Okay, I have a resolution that the following bylaws are hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 27th day of June, 2022. 256, 2022, being a bylaw to adopt amendment number 19 to the Town of Saugeen Shores Local Official Plan, and 357, 2022, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 75, 2006, being the comprehensive zoning bylaw for the Town of Saugeen Shores. Okay, Will Smith and Jake's consent to move and second that? Yes, all right. So is there any questions or comments to those two bylaws? Seeing none, then all in favor? That's carried, and then we'll bring back Councilors Grace and Mayette. Okay, so finally, we have a resolution that the following bylaws hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 27th day of June, 2022. 559, 2022, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings. Actually, I don't want to take the confirmation until the end. So I guess I really want to read that one, but I can't yet. Sorry, we'll move on to the closed session, which we have added to the agenda. And I have a resolution that council moving to close the public session to discuss matters in accordance with bylaw 63, 2015, section 3.8.2 C regarding a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality for the reason of discussing a pending acquisition of land. Is there a mover and seconder? The deputy mayor and Councillor Carr. All in favor? Okay, council moving to closed session, and the clerk will let us know when to proceed.
Thank you. We're going to have council sign off of this Zoom link for the time being. Mr. Mayor, we have all members present. You may continue.
Okay, thank you. We're going to reconvene in open session now, and I can report from closed that council gave direction to staff on a proposed acquisition of land. And that moves on then to the conclusion of the council meeting, and I have a resolution that this regular council meeting, no, wait a second, I haven't passed the confirmatory bylaw. This confirmatory bylaw is going to make me go crazy here. Okay, where's the confirmatory bylaw resolution? Okay, here we go. So I have a resolution that the following bylaws hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 23rd day of June, 2022. 559, 2022, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council of the Town of Saugeen Shores. And it's moved by Smith and seconded by Jakes. I hope you don't mind. And we'll ask all in favor. That's carried. Okay, now I have a resolution. This regular council meeting of June 27, 2022 hereby adjourns at 8:33 p.m. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Mayette, seconded by Grace. All in favor? Council stands adjourned. Have a good evening, everybody.